If you don't know me, ASBYT is my YouTube channel, and again, same to sort of mirror Tom. Had been hands on with the POCO X3 for a couple of days, and it's so exciting for so many reasons, which we'll touch on. But again, the price wise, $199, I think we marked. I think if you've saw my video that's been out, it's just for what you get is incredible, I think.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's get into it. So I know you guys have been playing around with the device for a couple of days, but I'd like to kind of introduce what the POCO X3 as a product stands for in the market. We launched this, and we've been planning about this project for a couple of months, I think up to 6 months. And we want to enter a market as the market disruptor. And this is the very first X series phone launched by POCO Global. And we want to make sure that when we came in strong, and we brought the POCO spirit back together. And yeah, I want to know what your first impressions are on the phone. And I know some of the fans have questions, which we'll answer on as well. But we'll go through each sections on the performance, battery, camera, and some of the other stuff that the POCO X3 features. So yeah, Adam, you can go first and let me know what your first impressions when you got the POCO X3.
So you've gone with a beautiful one first. Sorry, Tom. I mean, I think we touch on price, but I think what's so exciting is that for me, in terms of specs, you get mid-range to almost flagship in certain areas. And for me, I feel like it's dragging the mid-range sort of devices down to budget prices. And I think so many manufacturers are now going to struggle to really not sell their products, because there's loads of brilliant products, but I think at that price, it's just pretty incredible in terms of that sort of a lot of gaming, which we're going to touch on, is really good on it, and the battery, which we're going to touch on, is remarkable at 5,160, I think it is. And I just think overall, you get such a great package for that really affordable price. And I think, like you said, a disruptor is certainly a word that you could use.
Yeah, I mean, Adam's, if I can jump in, Adam's completely right about all of that. And I think as YouTubers, there's no nice way of saying it, YouTube creators, whatever you want to call us, we focus too often on like the flagships, the shiny tech at the top. But I'm sure Adam, Angus, you guys watching right now, they're probably not the phones that you are going to go out and buy. Not many people have over £1,000 to spend on a phone or whatever. So really, this is where phones like this are important. And these are the phones that people can actually buy and actually afford. And so while it's fun to look at, the flagship stuff, this is like, the everyday stuff that you want to be good. And I think, as Adam mentioned, the sort of trickle-down technology over the last year or two, budget, mid-range phones, affordable phones have got so much better. I think manufacturers are starting to cotton on that's what people are buying, and they should probably make them good. And I was just astonished when they told me the price of this. When we saw the spec sheet ahead of time, I think Adam and I both thought maybe like £350 or something. But then
it puts it in and around, it puts it in and around that sort of Pixel 4a and the OnePlus Nord, that sort of area, the 350, absolutely. 400 sort of pounds. And yeah, it's ridiculous.
199, and I've just put together a budget buying guide, which I'll be posting either later today or tomorrow. And this is in it, even if they didn't want me to or ask me to. Like this will be awesome. In it, front and center anyway. Such incredible value for money.
And just to follow on from that, like Tom was saying about the sort of flagships, that yes, obviously it's lovely to get sent reviewers units of all these amazing products, but we get so many comments. Well, I do personally. I'm sure Tom will agree. We get so many comments saying, "Well, okay, like you said, we've not got £1,000+ to spend." Numerous people, even my friends and family, for example, so many of them are just like, "Well, have you got one for 300, 400 cheaper?" Because I don't have a great amount, especially with the current situation as well. That obviously our thoughts go out to the people who are struggling at the moment with what's going on. Not many people have a massive amount of spare cash just to be throwing around. So the fact that you can get a very, very competent device in a price range which is really, really affordable, I think that's great for the average everyday consumer.
Yes, and that's absolutely our goal. We usually, we do talk about, gaming a lot on previous devices on POCO and even on this one, because we do believe in having that, performance to a certain level that ends up translating into value for money. That was the main goal of the POCO X3, and we want to make sure that we get this message across. And it's overall just our strategy coming back this year as the POCO brand. I know a lot of fans has heard about, our POCO brand slogan of everything you need, nothing you don't. And then we also, this time, we kind of actually went into more specific with the mid-range segment of exactly what you need. Talking about that, I would love to, actually show some of the fans who actually haven't seen our device. Adam and Tom both have one. So, this is the actual phone, and this is the X3, and I'm personally using the Shadow Gray edition. And I've been using this for a couple of weeks now, and I've really enjoyed it. And I don't know what you guys think on the color naming and the color itself. We did make some big changes with the logo and the stripe down the middle, and even the camera design. So what were your first impressions on design?
Well, if I can jump in, when we unboxed this yesterday, my first impression, I love what you've done with the back. You've got this, what we call, I think in the UK, a go faster stripe. I get that kind of subconsciously makes you think of gaming and speed, which is absolutely fair enough. But I think that's definitely, it's not a subtle phone. That'll whether you love it or you hate it.
It's eye-catching.
It's eye-catching. People will turn heads if you walk around with that. First impressions, I think it's a great looking phone. It's a pretty big phone, so bear that in mind. That's not something you're talking about. 6.67 inches, I believe. So it's a big phone, but then that's what you want if you are gaming or you're watching videos, and it means they can fit that massive battery in it as well. But I think it's a pretty unique setup with that quad camera lens. I like that they've gone for the round module. You don't see that very often. And this cobalt blue, I really like that. I think this is better looking than the one that Adam has, actually.
I am better looking than you, so maybe that evens itself out. Maybe a little. Hey!
It's not hard.
I'm only joking. You're beautiful. I'm similar to what Tom's saying. It will polarize in terms of the fact that it is a glossy back. There are some people that prefer frosted backs, for example. So in terms of keeping it clean, is not ideal, but of course, most people will carry cases, skins, etc. anyway. And when it is clean, it does look pretty racy, like Tom said. And I do like I know I spoke to you a couple of days ago, and you were on about the fact that the logo is a lot larger than it possibly usually is. And I actually quite like it. Usually I find big logos a little bit garish, as I said, I think in the video the other day. But I think it looks quite nice with that stripe as well. And it does actually, you can't really see it on here, but on my video, I do actually manage to get a shot which showcases there's actually a few little rainbow colours.
I saw that. It was actually really nice.
So that's it's quite a cool little addition there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on design, we, in our launch yesterday, we spoke about exactly the design you need. And we were fitting in the features into the slogan because this is what inspired us from the POCO team. And we wanted to make sure that, the design we make for this phone really stands out. I think that we can come to agreement that some of these phones on the market, it's very crowded. First off, the market is very crowded. And we wanted to make sure that we did have a design that once people spot it, they'll know it's from POCO. So we first enlarged the logo and we called it the standout chroma design. And then we put a finish line design. So it was exactly a design that we think that our fans wanted or need. I personally, when I first saw this, I thought it was
sorry,
really
if I can jump in, Angus, I appreciate you've gone with the small central hole punch as well. That's my preferred place to put it. So if you're watching videos, it's actually because of the taller screen. So you might be watching, I don't know, your favorite tech YouTuber, whoever it may be, maybe that guy, maybe someone else.
Got the wrong channel there.
I spelled ASBYT wrong, but no, it's obviously got super thin bezels, which is not something you always get on a more affordable phone. So it's just a nice big screen for gaming or whatever it is you do on your phone.
Again, we'll touch on the gaming aspect and the chipset, etc. But of course, if you're going to be using it for gaming, for example, you're going to need, most people want a large screen so you can see everything. And We'll touch on the high refresh rate and touch sampling rate as well, which is a massive thing. At the price, I probably said it's 199 about 7 times.
We get it, Adam. It's cheap. It's cheap.
We get it.
Stop banging on.
But the thing is, you are getting that 120 hertz refresh rate, which has been banded around the big trend of the last year or so. And some of those phones cost £1,400, £1,300. You know, it's
we've not really talked about that yet, have we? I mean, we're talking about the size of this and, you know, blah blah blah. But yes, how many phones for £200 give you a 120 hertz?
We get it. It's 199, Tom.
It's just exactly what you need, Adam. Exactly what you need. But also the 240 hertz. Sorry, I can't even speak. The 240 hertz. Still can't speak. Hertz touch sampling. And if you're not familiar with what that means, because it's kind of a spec that's put on those feature sheets, it basically is how long it takes for your input from your finger to, I don't know, pressing the trigger or the button on the phone to then it responding. It's kind of like the input lag a little bit on a screen, on a monitor or TV. So you've got the faster, more regular refreshing of the screen at 120 times per second, and then you've got 240 times per second this touch sampling. So it means it's instant responsive. So if you are playing Call of Duty and losing, like I normally am, it means you have zero excuse. It's just you're terrible.
I think
I've only had a couple of days with it, but I have noticed that straight away, especially for gaming. That, you know, the fact that it is fairly instantaneous when you're sort of, you know, deciding what you want to be doing, and like Tom says, it gives you no excuse then.
Well, I mean, since we talked about how good it looks and the history, you know, we can actually, you know, dive into the actual performance. Before we actually dive in, I do want to remind all the fans who are watching right now, you know, you can scan the QR code and get this beautiful device. But you can also wait and listen about the performance, and we'll get started right now. So
wait, Angus, how many phones are we? Sorry, how many? Phones are we giving away during this live stream?
We're going to give away a total of 6 phones, and 3 phones will actually be during just. You know, at our comment on the live stream for hashtag exactly what you need plus hashtag POCO X3, and then we'll have a Q&A session that will actually give out the other 3 phones throughout the stream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great to hear from the guys at home as well. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to, you know, I know we launched a new platform recently with Qualcomm, and we called it the Snapdragon 732G. And it is the latest 4G processor in the 700 series that's actually best performing compared to the likes of Snapdragon 720G and 730G. We saw this as a good opportunity. Qualcomm and at POCO, we were very excited to launch this phone. And we really felt that, you know, with the performance, we could offer a good enough performance for great gaming and just everyday usage. So yeah, I would like to know, you guys talked about earlier that you guys are gaming on it and also trying out the display and the gaming experience. But I believe the Qualcomm 732G, it's the brains of the phone, right? So I'd like to know what your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where it sits, obviously it's not, an 800 series chip. It's not going to be the best that you can possibly get. But it definitely, like you compared it to the 730G, which has been an incredibly popular chipset in the mid-range area even. And again, we're talking almost budget with price here. It's been pretty great in terms of my use in those gaming sessions. And I've also noticed it hasn't been too hot either, and I know we'll touch on liquid cooling, etc. But I definitely did notice or didn't notice that the temperature ramping up, which does happen on certain other smartphones.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, so I think the benchmark suggests the 732G is about 15% faster than the 730G in the graphics department. So it's sort of upper mid-range, but I hate to keep plugging it, but it's exactly what you need because I've played Asphalt 9, Call of Duty Mobile, Armor mobile ops I'm actually getting into at the moment, and it's pretty flawless throughout. Sometimes it drops the default graphic settings to like maybe a high rather than a very high, but honestly it's not something you notice, and you're still getting the high frame rate because that's obviously super important. You're going to have to get that high FPS to see the high refresh. But no, I've loved gaming on this, and crucially, as Adam touched on, it stays cool. And that I did a certain phone versus a certain phone with two different chipset video the other day, and it just showed the difference that the chip can make, and also the cooling, and then what that can do to throttling and performance, especially if you're playing a game for half an hour or an hour. It's not just like 5 minutes. If you're playing PUBG for an hour, you're not going to want this to burn your hand or just kill the battery because it's had to throttle and it's just not doing well. So I think POCO have thought of everything with this.
And sorry to jump in. I was just going to kind of run along that in terms of we're going to touch on so many of the great features. But there are obviously some things that can be improved, like we've said. But I think as an overall package, when you're talking about the chipset, when you're talking about the high refresh rate, touch sampling rate, the as Tom said, the liquid cooling system, which tends to reduce the need to thermal throttle. I think as an overall package, it serves the majority of people absolutely fantastically.
Yeah, I think the whole thought process behind us at POCO team here is that we had a lot of tough times trying to debate if this was the right chip to use. But we actually thought that with the 732G, and it has an 8-core structure and an 8-nanometer process, it's power efficient enough for daily usage and for a bit of gaming. Because the GPU was also part of the Elite Gaming series by Qualcomm, we thought that it could provide great gaming performance. But not only that, I think we've always put liquid cooled technology a part of our heritage here at POCO. So we knew that when you were gaming for, like Adam and Tom said, for an hour or 2 hours straight gaming on your phone, sooner or later your phone heats up and it will throttle the performance, drain the battery. So we improved massively on our liquid cooled technology 1.0 that was directly inspired from our POCO F1. This time we actually improved it by increasing the heat pipe size by 70%, which allows more heat to be taken in. And we kind of also use the mid-frame structure so we can actually take multi-layer of graphites behind the screen or behind the battery. So then, that's just more heating protection. So actually we do boast ourselves at sustained peak performance at all times. I think that has always been a main focus on us, rather than going for a very, very high benchmark score or playing on high settings where you can only do it for 20 minutes or so. We want to give you a smooth game experience and just very long, but still very enjoyable experience. So yeah, I think that would be giving us exactly the performance you need or the fans need. I've been playing myself. I game too much, and I've been playing a lot on
Put the phone down,
well.
Angus.
I know it's bad, man. It's bad. But I actually really enjoy it. I've used flagship phones. I think, I'm not going to say I've never used flagship phones, but I've used a lot of flagship phones in the past, and I feel like with the price tag in mind, like Adam and Tom always remind us, this phone is honestly, like, it blew my mind as well. And I've been out here at the start of the project, and it just blows my mind.
And we get stereo speakers. Not extra there.
Yes.
And
absolutely. I mean,
and
there's some couple
headphone
of
jack
gaming features. Yes.
Yeah.
Which will please.
I mean,
it's still, there are many people in the world that in fact, me and Tom talked about this the other day. Not everyone has £200 to spend on a pair of wireless earphones, so
yes,
it is still important. There is still a huge market for a headphone jack, and yes, we are seeing more and more it disappearing, but there are a lot of people that will continue to buy phones that have a headphone jack, and almost in the comment section that would vindicate this out of point of principle sometimes.
Yeah, and let us know in the comments actually if you guys still want phone companies to hang on to it, or you're happy to transition now, because I know they're listening to your feedback as well as ours. So that'll be interesting to hear if actually you use it, the headphone jack.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain features that we thought that by putting into X3, not only it enhances your daily experience, we also want to make sure that enhances your gaming experience. So we did put in dual stereo speakers. So, I mean, everyone has that scenario where when you play for too long or you're watching a video too long, you're wearing earbuds, especially headphone jack plugged in, you want to take it out and still have an immersive experience. So that's actually kind of the pain point we're kind of going for. It wasn't just like, oh, we can just stuff it in. We actually, every single features we actually thought out. And then we also have a great haptic. So I was wondering, how do you guys feel on the haptic, since you guys are playing, Call of Duty, even texting maybe?
My impression, I didn't think about it, which is a good sign, because if you are thinking about it, I think it's distracting from the experience and there's something either amazing or very wrong with it. So it felt good. Yeah, good haptic.
Yeah, similarly, I remember noticing it once when I was playing, and it's only because obviously I was going through all the video and looking at the specs and everything. So it is something that was on my mind, but I just noticed it felt really solid, and often with cheaper phones or worse quality in terms of the haptic feedbacks, it can feel a little bit rattly, a little bit shaky. Like, it's just not a nice feeling. And
exactly.
Like I said, I think solid is probably the word I would use for it.
Cool. So yeah, I think we talked a lot about performance, and we can get in actually the screen. But before I do that, I would actually like to remind everyone it is time for our first giveaway. So please hashtag us at exactly what you need, and hashtag POCO X3 in the comments below.
Yeah, can we win?
Don't be greedy now, guys. Come on. I think
2 hands.
We will announce the winners very soon after the stream as well. So yeah, let's move on. On display, I know we mentioned earlier 120 hertz, 240 hertz touch sampling rate, but I would like to explain here what our decision is. I think a lot of fans may have already asked on Adam's channel after his review video, why is it not AMOLED? Why is it not LCD? Why is it LCD? And actually, I think our price answers like 80% of that question. And it's also because if we did AMOLED, I feel like we won't be able to achieve that aggressive pricing. We also took a lot of surveys and a lot of research based on the past comments by our fans to really understand what were they asking for. And we feel like because 120 hertz or high refresh rate was the trend of smartphone in 2020, that was our number one priority for display. And then we obviously took a look at a greater scale on touch sampling rate, which I think a lot of people don't understand touch sampling rate and how important it is. But for gamers, I think it's massively important. It makes gaming so much more, professional in a way. Like, you get a small advantage just because of the hardware. So yeah, I'd like to know, I know this is the first thing you guys saw, so 120 hertz. I'd like to guys know the feedback on the screen and your experience on gaming in general.
Well, to jump in just quick, I mean, I think we would have all preferred AMOLED. I mean, there's nothing. We're not here saying this is the best phone in the entire world and everyone else should throw their phones in the bin. It's a phone for a price point that works for a lot of people. It does what you need. So yes, AMOLED maybe would be nicer, but I mean, I've reviewed a lot of phones, and I think unless you're watching maybe movies or videos in a dark room and you're really looking at those blacks, in everyday use, it's actually, I think you'd struggle to tell the difference between the two of them. And if it lets you I'd rather have a 120 hertz screen than a 60 LCD than a 60 hertz AMOLED, because you just see it and experience it more often. So I'm really happy with your choice, actually. And keeping at that price is just so important.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's along the similar lines. You basically, everything you just said was what I was going to say. But for me, I think if you had, like you said, if you had made this phone with an AMOLED display, which, yes, of course, in an ideal world, you would have it in there. The price would obviously hike with that. But the phone was 60 hertz refresh rate. I think you would have got a lot of comments saying, you know, what about all the other phones that do 90, 120, 144? You know, so you'd still have that area of the market, or
you can't win.
You can't win.
Yeah.
And I know we harp back all the time with this situation, but this phone is never going to be perfect, because at 199 it can't possibly be. There are corners that have to be cut, and it is just the case that LCD is the way to go for that reason. But again, with the 120, it's similar to with the resolution as well. You know, you're not going to get 4K or Quad HD in a phone in this area of the market, really, and 120 hertz and AMOLED. It's simply impossible. Otherwise, you know, the company would go out of business. So it's about building the right package, I think. And again, we touched on the battery being so big. And that's another sort of potential con with that, is the fact that it is a larger phone, but you do want that bigger battery, so it's not going to necessarily look the cleanest in the hand, and that's why some companies decide to have a smaller battery to make it look a bit more minimalistic. But you don't get that power user big battery, so I would again prefer the bigger battery, and it's a similar thing with the LCD and the high refresh rate, I think.
Cool. Yeah. I think, you know, for us, we want to take an overall look at the whole package. And, you know, we're definitely not saying this is the best phone in the market. We believe it's a great device for the price, and even for a bit above the price, right? I think all of the functions we put in is exactly what the fans need, or what we believe that they wanted in our next line of phones. So yeah, I think I
jumped ahead early talking about the display. I mean, so I've ruined your slides, Angus. I'm sorry.
To be fair, I just went and talked for about 5 minutes. So
it's true. I actually fell asleep briefly when Adam was talking.
I'm not surprised.
I think
you need to just cut me off.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think we're having fun with this, and I think when we talked about power conservation on the display, we did put in something really cool called adaptive sync into our POCO X3. So actually, I explained how it works yesterday. So if the fans didn't watch the launch, I can explain it again. So actually, for our dynamic switch, we make sure that not all content we watch, right? It's actually 120 hertz compatible. So dynamic switch, you can actually it'll detect what content you're watching and automatically drop the hertz down. So that's something that I thought was really awesome, that's done by our product team. And, we thought that something smart like this would really help the small differences that it makes for power consumption, even if we put in a massive battery. So yeah, I mean,
yes.
What do you guys think?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were handling that to us there.
I think we can move on to battery, actually.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it. Maybe I was one step ahead of the game. I went on to battery. Maybe we go from there.
This is what I'm actually most excited about, because you can have the best phone in the world, but if it doesn't last you a full day and you have to ration it, I think crucially, if you have to like think about whether is it going to get me to the end of the day if I play half an hour of Call of Duty now, then it ruins the experience. So cramming in a 5160 milliamp hour battery into this is crazy. I mean, it's an easy 2-day use depending on how you use it, but if you just want to go crazy with gaming, then you can probably get half a day as well from it. So for me, I think battery life is probably number one, or joint number one most important factor for me. So having a big one's important.
Excuse me?
I've heard that. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I similarly, I mean, it's a difficult one in terms of what's the number one priority in a phone, because so many people have their own opinions on that. What's right for you might not be right for somebody else. But like you said, Tom, because there's been such a big leap in charging technology, for example, and being able to plug it in for half an hour and it be halfway there or whatever. But it's still not ideal. I would still personally prefer to get up in the morning, take it off charge, go have my day, and then come back and go to sleep at 2 a.m. because the